Hi everyone, welcome to today's live stream. I'm Corentin and I'm here with Karian.
Yeah, very happy to see you guys. It's been a while. I'm very happy to do this live stream again.
Cool, so today as usual we've got a presentation for you and then we'll move on to a series of Q&As. So I think we can start with the presentation right now. So today's presentation is going to be about learning from failures. So we've put this presentation together because you've asked us a lot in the past to give you examples of gameplays that we've tested in the past but that have not worked. So that's what we're going to do today. So quick disclaimer on this presentation. So the gameplays you're going to see today were tested and they did not work. However, it doesn't mean that these gameplays or these mechanics do not work per se. You can execute them differently. You can have different interpretations. So please, please, please don't understand our presentation as saying never do these again. These can change. You can interpret them differently. So do not discard these ideas. These can be done in a different way. Also, CPI is very seasonal, so it can change. If we test these gameplays again in, say, 6 months, the CPI might be different. We simply don't know. So big disclaimer on the gameplays we're about to show. I feel like we're about to show something terrible, not PG-13, sorry. Okay, so moving on to the first gameplay. We tested this game around 3 weeks ago. D1, or you see the stats there, D1 below 30%, D7 below 5, CPI way above $1.50. So when we look at this game, we try to analyze it and try to understand why it had those results. The first thing that we see is that there's a real lack of player control. All you do is you swipe left and right. Once you do that, you kind of hope that the objects are going to go into the target. There's a lot of luck involved, there's no real skill. So you have very little control over the direction the balls take. And that's something that's almost very frustrating, or that is very frustrating for the players. And also at this stage, this prototype is more of a toy rather than a game. There's not much for you to do, you're just more observing, you're watching it, rather than actually interacting with it in a way that you have control over what's happening. So there's a lack of control, no skills, and being more of a toy. For us, that really explains why retention was so low. Visually, why did it have such a bad CPI? We think it's because the gameplay is not very dynamic. As you see, the objects are very airy, they're very light, they float. So it's not something that's dynamic. And we see that at the moment, dynamic scenes, dynamic actions do attract better CPI. So that's our interpretation, our reading of why that game had those results. If we now move on to another gameplay, so this again was tested this month. It had similar stats to the previous one. So we think the main problem with this video is that, especially on CPI, it's really hard to understand. You don't know if you're controlling the road, we don't know if the camera is something that you're moving rather than the road. It's hard to understand what's going on. And also, is the road going left or right, or is it the camera that's going left or right? About the gameplay itself, it's also really hard to control. Whether you swipe left or whether you swipe right, you will be losing lots of balls, which can cause a lot of frustration. So these three elements, we think, are the main reasons why the game had such bad results. If we move on to the third prototype that we're looking at today, again it had bad results. The three main points we saw in this gameplay was that because it's an inverse runner, so you're moving from the top towards the bottom of the screen rather than from the bottom to the top, it's really hard to anticipate. You don't know what's coming because it appears at the last minute. So it's really hard to anticipate. Also, even though it's a runner, the flow is really bad. There's actually no flow. It's really stop and go. You move, you stop, you move, you stop, there's no flow. Whereas in the typical runner gameplay, you would want to have more flow, or at least you want to have the player control whether or not there's a flow. Here the game is forcing you to not have a flow, which is really bad. And also that's just a hypothesis. We think that the grey background didn't really help out on CPI. There's something maybe a bit more brighter, maybe pastel colors, nicer looking, could have helped on the CPI front. So those are the three main reasons we think that this game had bad results. Again, just to summarize, guys, so these are three gameplays that we saw had bad results. We're happy to share them with you. These were done internally by the Paris team, so they were also obviously very happy to share this with us. And thanks a lot, guys, again for that. But yeah, big pinch of salt. These gameplays